Thursday, March 27th, Hollister Planning Commission meeting to order. Billy, verification of agenda posting, please.
Yes, Chairman, the agenda for the Planning Commission of March 27, 2014 was posted on Friday, March 21st at 4:59 p.m.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Alvarez, you want to go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Alvarez? Here. Commissioner Lenore?
Present.
Commissioner Heboy?
Present.
Commissioner Harvey?
Here.
Chairman Torres?
Here. All right. Approval of minutes for February 27, 2014. Comments, questions on those? None? Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we adopt the minutes of February 27th as presented.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Communication from the public on items not listed on the agenda. Billy, any speaker cards for?
No, sir.
No. Okay. With that, we will move to public hearing item number 1, which is the growth management allocations 2014-2, filed by Ray, help me with the last name, Mariottini, requesting 15 allocations on a property consisting of approximately 2.5 acres in the OTM Old Town medium-density residential zoning district located on San Benito Street, being more specifically described as assessor's parcel numbers 058120, 0012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, and 32. Okay, Jill?
The applicant's requesting 15 residential allocations on approximately 2.5 acres located on San Benito Street, south of Hayden Street, and east of Monterey Street. The applicant would eventually submit an application for site and architectural review for the multifamily units. A preliminary layout of the circulation through the property would have access streets off of San Benito Street and Monterey Street. The property at Monterey Street is identified as a contributing building that was built in 1890 with a contributing garage. The current conceptual layout shows removal of the structure. At site and architectural submittal, staff would like to work with the applicant to explore site design alternatives to preserve the historical structures. CEQA considers the demolition of a historic structure as a significant impact. Due to this, staff recommends the following additional information to the resolution. Elevations there. Just a moment. So on the resolution, we're going to specify the location to be a little bit more, it was a little confusing here because there's multiple addresses. So on the resolution, we're going to add the following APN would be 56-120-013-014-015-016-019, and -032. Also, there'll be the addition of another whereas, just to be a little more specific that the property is within a historical district. So we'll be adding the verbiage of whereas the property is located within the Monterey Street Historic District. And a second whereas, future development shall be subject to the Secretary of the Interior standards of historic preservation.
The request for 15 allocations for the new multifamily development is consistent with the City of Hollister's general plan for medium-density residential at 8 to 12 dwelling units per net acre. By awarding the allocations, the Planning Commission is not providing an approval of the design or the layout, as you all know, of the project. However, the Planning Commission must hold a duly noticed public hearing for the approval process, which will include conditions of approval once it comes before you if the allocations are granted tonight. With that, staff recommends the Planning Commission to adopt a resolution awarding 15 allocations to Ray Mariottini for a multifamily development, with the addition to the resolution of assessor parcel numbers for the property location as described by Joe, and additional stipulation addressing property location within the Monterey Street Historic District. Does the Commission have any questions for staff?
Any questions for staff?
Just a clarification, then you're recommending that you do something with salvaging those historic structures, is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Hiboy. We're recommending that Planning Commission directs the applicant to work with staff to see if we can somehow work around demolishing the historic structures or providing a different alternative for that. But that's just, for this purpose of tonight's, decision is just merely for the allocations.
Okay, I may have asked this question in previous meetings, but are we still tracking the number of allocations as far as for years, and where are we at? Do we have kind of a summary of where are we at with the allocations, or?
The answer to the question is yes. We can come back and give you a number. However, there has been discussion now recently about, since the sunset of Measure U,
Yes.
and whether or not the city council has a desire, it's just been kind of informally talked about, of whether or not we actually even continue on with an allocation process. We've always had an allocate, well, I shouldn't say always, but as far as long as I can remember, and Commissioner Lenore probably knows better than I, exactly when the allocation process started, but I believe it was actually up until at least the early 90s. That
Was the early 80s.
Early 80s, okay. And so there, I think my recommendation to the council will always be that we have some sort of a management program, whether it's through allocations or however they want to do it, but through our general plan process, and you know, we plan for growth on a particular scale, and that's what we need to be consistent about. Now, how we actually implement that, we'll probably have a more discussion with them later. But as of right now, we are keeping track. Like I said, if we just use round numbers again, you know, 244 has kind of been what was under Measure U, sort of, but it's been in the ordinance. We don't have a particular problem with that. I believe even in the general plan, although I'm struggling with finding exactly where it was, or if it was actually part of the CEQA document related to the long-term wastewater treatment plant. But that number, I believe, is around 305 to 314. In future years. So in any case, like I said, whatever number the council decides to establish, we will go with. But we should be in line with what our general plan says.
Good.
But we can give you that number at the next meeting.
Okay.
This is the beginning of a new year. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
We might be, I think after tonight, if all the allocations are awarded tonight, there's another application coming up that's going to ask for a few. I think we might be at 76. It's rough, but we'll give you the next meeting the exact number. After pending tonight, that'll change. It's going to be a lot lower than that I just gave, but we'll check it for you.
All right. Thank you. Any additional questions for staff? Okay. Do we have any? All right, we'll go ahead and open up for our public comment at 6:08. Any cards for this particular item, Billy?
No.
Okay. Seeing no speakers for this item, we'll bring it back to the commission at 6:08 again. And what is the pleasure of the commission on this particular item?
Resolution number, Bill?
2014-3.
Want me to go ahead? I move that we approve the growth management allocations 2014-2 by adopting resolution 2014-3 with the aforementioned revisions to the resolution to address the site locations and the Monterey Street Historic District.
We have
Yes,
a motion
correct.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to item number 2, Site and Architectural Review 2014-4. And I always mess this up. Merrick Confectionery requesting site and architectural approval for the construction of a 2,337 square foot addition to an existing 78,145 square foot industrial building on a 9.9 acre site. The property is located within the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District at 2101 Avenue. CEQA is categorical exemption from CEQA pursuant to Section 15301, existing facilities class.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting, as you mentioned, site and architectural approval for the construction of a 2,337 square foot addition to an existing 78,145 square foot industrial building on a 9.9 acre parcel. The site is currently being used as a large confectionery known as Marriage Confectionery. The current business would like to make an addition of a tank room. The exterior of the existing building is comprised of horizontal plaster reveals The proposed addition would match the existing elevations by adopting the same facade. The maximum height of the addition would be 25 feet and 6 inches.
Pursuant to Section 171040C1, Industrial Zoning District Performance Standards indicates that new construction should include windows, articulated entries, trellises, or other features where building walls are visible from streets. The unpainted, which is the gray galvanized metal surfaces, shall not be used on primary structures that are visible from the street. Industrial facilities with a utilitarian building design shall be screened with landscaping. The building addition would be located in the northeast area of the site, facing existing rear yards of single-family residences. The proposed addition would match the existing facade elevations that are there now. The building addition would match the existing building height of 25 feet 6 inches. The facade would be cement plaster painted to match the existing building and would also include horizontal plaster reveals. The proposed building design, drainage, and site layout has been designed to comply with the Industrial Zoning District Performance Standards in Section 171040 of the Hollister Municipal Code. Due to its proximity to the airport, the Hollister Municipal Airport Comprehensive Land Use Plan includes the project site in the airport safety zone. The application will be reviewed for land use consistency with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the Hollister Municipal Airport, and a condition has been placed on the resolution requiring the applicant to receive approval from the Airport Land Use Commission prior to the building permit issuance. And with this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request to receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal and consider approving site and architectural application 2014-4, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff?
Is that condition currently part of the proposed conditions now?
Yes.
Okay.
Condition number 44 in the packets, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Just had a real quick question. This project seems familiar. Is this second phase? Didn't we approve something here recently?
In November, you're right, Chairman Torres. In November, there was an addition of approximately an acre.
Okay.
Yeah, where Joe's pointing out,
Okay.
a little bit over an acre, 49,569 square feet. The applicant did indicate that at this time they want to hold off a little bit more. They have a 2-year approval, but they wanted to move as soon as possible with their tank. However, based on our Hollister Municipal Code ordinance, the change, even though it's not large compared to the 49,000 square feet, however, the over 2,000 feet is significant to where it has to receive site and architectural review and approval.
Okay. I understand. Just want to make sure I'm not confusing the two.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up public comment period at 6:12. Billy, you have any speaker cards on this item?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Speaker cards. So we have no speakers. We'll go ahead and close it back at 6:12 and bring it back to commissioners. Well, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve Site and Architectural Review 2014-4, Resolution 2014-4, for the Merrick Confectionery, requesting Site and Architectural Review approval.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move to item number 3, which is a pre-zone 2014-2. James Matthews requesting to pre-zone 1.98 acres of land for the low-density residential for future annexation into the corporate limits of Hollister. The property is located between San Benito and Cienega Road, west of Henry Court, APN 020-170-035. CEQA is categorical exemption from CEQA pursuant to Section 15332, Infill Development Class 32. Okay, Jill?
Thank you. The applicant's requesting approval for pre-zone for the annexation of 1.98 acres of land in the low-density residential performance overlay district. The project is for pre-zoning for annexation only. No development is proposed at this time. The territory proposed for the incorporation is depicted in the attached PDF, and you can also see it on the screen here. There's one existing residence on this property along Cienega Road. Pending pre-zone, the annexation, the site would be zoned low-density residential district performance overlay, R1 LPZ, pursuant to Section 1704.010 of the Hollister Municipal Code. The low-density residential R1 zoning district is consistent with the low-density residential LDR land use category of the general plan. which allows 1 to 8 units per net acre. The intent of the overlay district, LPZ, is to foster development that meets the range of densities for the general plan land use designation with the option for flexible standards to implement policies and programs in the general plan. The lot is located within the city's sphere of influence, and it is contiguous to the city limits along 3 sides on the north, east, and south sides.
On September 21st, 2009, the City Council of the City of Hollister authorized staff to initiate the pre-zoning of a number of unincorporated islands in the City of Hollister's sphere of influence, and including the property at 1650 Cienega Road. LAFCO Policy Section 2.3.1 requires that the applicant demonstrate with a plan for services that the city is capable of providing services to the territory being annexed. The applicant has provided a plan for providing services to the project site. The project site is an unincorporated island, and existing sewer, water, and storm drainage lines are in place to serve the property. Future development at the proposed project will incrementally contribute to the demand for additional personnel to provide police and fire services. A condition of approval in the annexation agreement would require the residential development area to annex to a Melrose district for extended police and fire protection services to offset the cost. And like Joe mentioned, it would be pursuant to the low-density residential area of the general plan. Section 2.218 of LAFCO policy prohibits the creation of unincorporated islands unless there is proper justification. The proposed pre-zoning request would create the 0.75 acre parcel to the north into an unincorporated island, as you can see on the screen here. Section 56375.3 of the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberger Local Government Reorganization Act allows a city to submit a resolution to LAFCO requesting annexation of unincorporated islands located within the city limits for areas less than 150 acres. The attached resolution recommends to the City Council the inclusion of the 0.75 acre parcel with the approval for the pre-zoning. The property is already developed with a single-family residential dwelling unit. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving the attached resolution recommending to the City Council approval of pre-zoning application number 2014-2, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Does the Commission have any questions for staff?
Thank you, Abraham.
I do not.
None? We'll go ahead and open it up, public comment period at 6:17. Billy, speaker cards on this item.
No, sir, but
Okay. Go ahead up to the podium, sir.
David Johnson. Hey, how you doing? Good. Yeah, I talked to Abraham just a little bit about this property. I met actually the owner of 1640, and you know I have concerns going forward with this, his proposed plans for this property, as it's going to be surrounding and is somewhat for the ability for him to subdivide is really going to be challenging. If we look at these, I don't know if this is the exact point when I can approach this, but the portion along is that San Felipe? Or San Benito, excuse me, San Benito right there. My understanding is that there's no, per the city's ordinances already, there's no way for you do not want access into that, off of that street for residential properties. That's essentially right in front of the parking lot for the high school, which would limit the only access to these properties to the south side of 1640, which if he's going to divide this into, I think, 3 or 4 different land lots, it's going to really provide additional traffic to the side of my home. So additionally, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. I'd like to nip this in the bud, and to top it off, I don't think he's made a mortgage in 3 years. So, and I believe there's a court hearing and so forth already in the books for the property that's being held up on foreclosure. So that's where I want to leave it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have any additional speakers on this item?
no, sir.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission at 6:18. And what is the pleasure of the commission on this item?
I have a question.
Yes.
That's a pretty looking flag lot there. And I know we have criteria for flag lots, if somebody could refresh my memory on that. There's a 3-to-1 ratio or something. I don't know how wide the frontage is there that this gentleman's talking about. But typically, I thought we didn't look favorably on that kind of a flag lot. Because what's the planning measure rule of thumb on that? It looks like it might barely make it, I don't know.
Is that the other existing lot, and are we annexing both pieces, right?
Oh, that's
Correct.
right, so it doesn't theoretically annex a flag lot, but when he goes to develop, it's gonna be a flag lot. Right.
Well, and I don't know where we're ultimately ending up with it. If the flag lot exists currently, I mean, we can't we don't have the ability to change that
Okay.
right now. However, if he ends up purchasing both properties, or both properties develop it simultaneously, which I've heard in the past may happen.
Well, that wouldn't be an issue.
Right, then it wouldn't be an
But
issue.
if he goes to develop it separately, is it meeting the ratio?
Well, I don't, again, with something that's grandfathered in, a real parcel, I don't
Okay.
think we have the ability to deny because of current zoning rules, that come into place after a parcel is
Right.
created. And again, I think the point for tonight is specifically, this is just the initial point of going in forward with the actual annexation, not necessarily a development proposal. So,
Correct.
I mean,
Thank you.
that stuff, you'll obviously see this probably a few more times,
When
or
it comes
at
up
least
with
twice. So,
Map. Okay.
Thank you.
sorry, that wasn't a very good answer.
No, I mean, I always like to do planning as far ahead as possible.
Yeah,
If you lead them down the road of you can, and then we tell them you can't, that's not good.
no. But I'm assuming that flag lot was obviously created several years ago in the county, and the city doesn't have much of a choice at that point.
Okay.
So how do we address his concern about the access?
Well, you
where-
can't right now, it's not the
Is that
issue.
not?
It really, again, access really isn't an issue, and the city, obviously, what Abraham was talking to Mr. Jensen about is absolutely true. We probably will not allow any ingress egress off of San Benito Street. So everything will come off of Cienega, regardless of how many units ultimately end up being there, yeah. Again, it's kind of a, what is it, Dave? Is that an arterial? I mean, San Benito Street, or? Yeah, so, and usually cities try to minimize the amount of ingress egress
Well,
off of those.
what's the proposed zoning?
It is R1, single-family residential, R1, LPZ.
So 4,500 square foot lots.
Correct. However, because it has the RPZ, it could go lower. But the low-density residential allows for 1 to 8 units per net acre.
So based on the lot size, what's the maximum density for this property?
If it's about, I think it's about 1 acre. So it would be about 7 maximum, but it would be about 7 units, 7 to 8
Around
units.
7?
Yeah,
Okay.
but they have to meet parking, they have to meet open space.
Right.
So yeah, so they have to
Could
take
be
all that
less,
into. It
depending,
could be
I
less.
understand that.
Correct, because there's requirement of 2 parking spaces per unit, requirement of a certain space for open space,
Okay.
private.
Right.
Yeah, so it could be less.
Okay.
Yes.
Any additional comments? I'll entertain a motion. Buddy? Dave?
Well, it's one of those little pockets in the sphere of influence that, that we need to clean up. And I think that this is not a development proposal. It's just to provide city services to this parcel and to annex it ideally in the city. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve pre-zone 2014-2. What's the PC resolution number on this?
2014-5.
5.
2014-5.
Yes.
And I'll second that. All those in, motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and we'll move now to item number 4. Growth Management Allocations 2014-4, Minor Subdivision 2014-2, Conditional Use Permit 2014-1, and Tentative Map 2013-5. UCP LLC, the applicant is requesting approval of a resolution to award 46 remaining allocations to complete Cerrado Estates for a total of 241 units for tentative map 2013-5 encompassing 42 acres and conditional use permit for a planned unit development in the R3 MPZ Medium Density Residential Performance Overlay zoning district at 510 Hillcrest Road. The tentative map proposes to subdivide 42 acres as follows. 241 single-family lots, lots 1 through 241, on 27.14 net acres, 2.65 acres for common open space, parcels A through U, and parcels K, M, and public right-of-way dedicated as a pedestrian access way and cul-de-sac design for Cherry and Pear Streets, and 1.53 acre lot, parcel A, dedicated as an open space easement for stormwater retention infiltration with 10.9 acres dedicated as public right-of-way, and parcels V through W of 0.11 acres dedicated as driveways. 0.33 acres would be dedicated along Meridian Street. The Cerrado Homestead parcel Y encompasses 2.21 acres and would not be included in the project. CEQA has mitigated negative declaration on this. Joe?
The applicant is requesting approval of a resolution to award 46 remaining allocations to complete the Cerrado Estates, so the final total will be 241 units for tentative map 2013-5 encompassing 42 acres and conditional use permit for a planned unit development in the R3 MPZ Medium Density Residential Performance Overlay Zoning District at 510 Hillcrest Road. And Chairman Torres kind of did the breakdown already of the tentative map. And also just to reiterate, the Cerrado Homestead parcel, which is parcel Y, encompasses 2.21 acres and would not be included in this project. The average single-family lot size would be 4,900 square feet, and the minimum lot size would be 4,500 square feet. The tentative map has a gross density of 5.81 dwelling units per acre and a net density of 8.08 dwelling units per acre. Table 1.1 lot standards provides a summary of the single-family lot standards proposed, which was in your staff report. So the minimum lot size, again, 4,500 square feet. The maximum lot size would be 6,110 square feet. The average lot size in the development is 4,900 square feet with, again, the net density 8.08 dwelling units per acre. Access to the site would be provided by nude roadway connections from Meridian Street and Hillcrest Road, and there'll be pedestrian connections at Pear Street and Cherry Street. The site layout and interior roadways allow for continuous traffic circulation with no dead-end streets. Meridian Street is a 4-lane collector road with 2 travel lanes extending east-west. Access to the site would line up with the existing Monte Carlo Drive to the north. The project site would include frontage improvements to Meridian Street, for example, sound wall, sidewalk, curbs, and gutters. Hillcrest Road is proposed as a 4-lane collector road with 2 travel lanes extending east and west along the project frontage. Access to the site would line up with the existing Joe Borovich Drive to the south, and the project would include frontage improvements just like Meridian Street would be along Hillcrest Road. Example again, sound wall, sidewalks, curbs, gutters. Cherry Street and Pear Street are 2-lane local streets extending in the east and west direction from Memorial Drive through a residential neighborhood immediately east of the project site. Currently, Cherry Street and Pear Street are dead ends at the western edge of the project site. A pedestrian access would extend the existing west terminus of Cherry Street and Pear Street into the project site, while the roadways will be improved into cul-de-sac design for vehicle turnaround.
A mitigative negative declaration was prepared for this project and was circulated to the appropriate agencies and was open for public review for the appropriate time pursuant to CEQA guidelines. And we did receive 3 responses, one from Caltrans District 5, one from the Air District, and another from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And formal written responses to comments on a mitigative negative declaration are not required by CEQA. However, in the interest of full disclosure and cooperation with responsible agencies and the public, the comments to the environmental analysis will be addressed briefly. At the beginning, when Joe was making her presentation, I went around to pass out a summary of the comments. There's actually three packets on the stack of papers that we gave you. The first one basically are the comments. The first page, you'll see number 1, it says California Department of Transportation, District 5. And the first bullet point basically summarizes their comment, which states, please identify the project in the city's traffic impact fee program that will address long-range impacts at the State Route 25 with the Hillcrest Road intersection. So staff's response briefly is that Hillcrest Road currently provides 1 travel lane in the westbound direction and 2 lanes in the eastbound direction at its intersection with State Route 25. The City of Hollister's general plan identifies Hillcrest Road as a major collector. The proposed project will be required to construct a second westbound lane on the north side on Hillcrest Road on the north side of the project on Hillcrest Road. I'm sorry, it's the south side of the project on Hillcrest Road along the project's frontage, east of the State Route 25. So now instead of 1 westbound lane, there's going to be 2. So 2 westbound lanes and 2 eastbound lanes. The traffic study prepared for the project includes traffic associated with approved development along the north side of Hillcrest Road, west of State Route 25. It is presumed that widening of Hillcrest Road west of State Route 25 will occur as future development west of State Route 25 proceeds. The San Benito County Traffic Impact Mitigation Fee identifies specific improvement locations. In addition, the Traffic Impact Mitigation Fee states that improvements at 5 additional intersections were purposely not identified to provide flexibility as development occurs. Should approved development west of State Route 25 not proceed, the city may choose to implement the improvements identified above as part of the Traffic Impact Mitigation Fee. A second comment indicates that Caltrans requests a copy of the Stormwater Pollution and Prevention Program, the SWEEPI, that is supplied to the City of Hollister Engineering Department, citing potential effects upon the state's drainage culverts. The request of the SWEEPI, or the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program, per mitigation measure 9.1, and comments pertaining to the state right-of-way are noted for the record. So staff would be able to provide that. Any questions regarding the Caltrans comments? That was basically a summary of their comments before we go into the Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control District comments.
I just had one. So,
Sure.
so they're recommending the widening of Hillcrest versus Meridian,
Both.
or both?
It would be, yeah, so at this time, the project is going to be widening Hillcrest, the west lane of Hillcrest to have the 2 lanes instead of that 1 that it has along the project site.
And Meridian.
Right.
Both right-of-ways, correct?
No, it only says Hillcrest.
It should be Meridian.
Is Meridian
He
already?
wasn't never in the assessment district, so he has to do it now.
You would figure it'd
Correct.
be Meridian, given the location of the school right down the way.
I think it's over.
Plus it's phasing in.
Okay, this project will improve the frontages and dedicate any necessary
Right.
right-of-way for both, the north side of Hillcrest, the south side of Meridian, and both roads will be sized enough to handle 4 lanes of traffic, 2 each way. Anticipation of having to do any improvements at those intersections with the 25 bypass. It's not anticipated because the 25 bypass was built with future development in mind.
Yeah, I just asked that question only because of the school, and a number of occasions I've seen, a lot of orange marker paint right in the middle of the street there on
Sure.
25 and Meridian for accidents.
So will both roads be done prior to any houses being built?
Prior to the occupancy of any of the homes,
Okay.
both of those improvements should be done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
The second comment letter was provided by the Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control District, and their comment basically indicated that PG&E energy intensity factors could be adjusted for the greenhouse gas modeling, and that's point taken. The Air District is correct that adjusting the energy intensity factors in the GHG modeling would yield different results. Based on the environmental consultant's review, adjusting these factors would actually reduce the amount of predicted GHG emissions from the project as the applicant refines the GHG calculations to determine GHG offset credits. It is recommended that these reductions be calculated at that time. The second comment is that the Air District recommends that the additional measures such as solar power and outdoor electrical outlets be incorporated into the project. The response is that similar to the above response, final improvement plans will be used to refine the project's GHG, greenhouse gas emissions for the purposes of purchasing offset credits. The applicant therefore has an incentive to include such measures into project design to demonstrate that GHG emissions are reduced to the greatest degree possible to minimize the offset. As such, the measures will be considered. And finally, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, Central Coast District, provided a comment letter. Basically, their comment was that the Hollister Engineering Department, they provided several, the Regional Water Quality Control Board provided the Hollister Engineering Department several comments related to hydrology and water quality. Specifically, the comments focus on ensuring that the project's stormwater facilities are designed consistent with the city's municipal separate storm sewer MS4 permit, including all applicable post-construction requirements. In response, the city has modified mitigation measure 9-2, and that's actually on that addresses these design issues. The changes to the mitigation measures reflect the most current design standards and require supporting hydrologic data. And that mitigation measure is on the second packet that we provided to you, page 8 of 11, which is the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. At the bottom of page 8 of 11, or you could even actually see it up here. Essentially, these are state requirements that cities have to abide by for new developments, and so we're basically indicating that as part of the mitigation measures, we provide this so that way the applicant is able to fulfill this requirement.
At this point, we'd like to just go through really quick the mitigation measure 9-2. So I'm just going to go off what we have here on the screen. Prior to issuance of grading or building permits for the project, the applicant shall submit a detailed stormwater management plan to the City of Hollister Engineering Division. The stormwater management plan submitted shall comply with all applicable requirements of Section 1716-140 of the Hollister Municipal Code. The stormwater management plan also comply with the Central Coast Water Quality Control Board Resolution R3-2013-0032, and in accordance with Section E12K of the city's municipal separate stormwater sewer system MS4 permit, including all applicable post-construction requirements, PCRs, development standards, and design criteria. The stormwater management plan shall be supported by up-to-date hydraulic data to meet the current standards. All stormwater pollution prevention measures and long-term maintenance agreements shall be implemented and approved prior to issuance of certificates of occupancy for each phase of the project. Stormwater pollution control measures represented in the proposed project are conceptual and will be finalized only after review by the City of Hollister Engineering Division and Design Review Committee. So just to kind of, what we have here on the screen is that the language that was in the initial study prior is in the black text. Any changes that were made by the Regional Water Quality Control Board have been stricken through, and then the new text that was added is in the red underlined.
I just have a comment. So the applicant is obligated to provide a stormwater management plan plus a stormwater pollution prevention plan. Is that correct? Those are two separate plans.
Those are two separate ones. That's correct, and they would be submitted to the City of Hollister Engineering Department for review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There was an additional change to mitigation measure 12-2, and this is for the noise mitigation, and this is additional text added in red font and underlined to just have more clarification on the noise study. There was a misinterpretation on the site plan, thinking there was going to be pedestrian breaks in the wall. If you look at the, so here, at these kind of open space stormwater areas. And so that's been corrected by the consultant, and additional language to show if there are breaks that they're not in that specific area. And also, if you look on the mitigation monitoring program that Abraham had passed out, it's on page 10 of 11 at the bottom of the page. So now I'm just going to go through the changes really quickly with the added text to mitigation measure 12-2. So a sound barrier shall be constructed sufficient to shield the rear and side yard areas of proposed lots located along Meridian Street, Hillcrest Road, and Highway 25 bypass. The barrier shall be constructed to a minimum height of 10 feet along the Highway 25 bypass, 6 feet along Meridian Street, and 8 feet along Hillcrest Road. The barrier shall be constructed of masonry block or material of similar density and usage, with no air gaps between construction material or at the base of the barrier. Construction materials selected shall meet a minimum combined surface weight of 4 pounds per square foot. Where breaks in the barrier occur at site entrances, the barrier shall extend perpendicular to the roadway at sufficient distance to shield the exterior rear yard area of the adjacent residential lot to the minimum height of 6 feet. For aesthetic reasons, any transitions in barrier height should be gradual, and abrupt changes in barrier height shall be avoided. Recommended noise barrier locations are depicted in Figure 2, and Figure 2 is within the initial study. The installation of mechanical ventilation or HVAC systems shall, at a minimum, be required for proposed residential dwellings located adjacent to Highway 25 bypass, and this is, this was a little more specific where the HVAC was going to, the air conditioning system was going to be installed. So this will be lots 1 through 28 off of Meridian Street. It'd be lots 120 through 133, and 236 through 241, and Hillcrest Road lots 87 through 97. The purpose of this measure is to allow windows and doors to remain closed during inclement weather conditions so that acceptable interior noise levels can be maintained. And so staff is recommending that the revisions to all the resolutions that include the mitigation measures reflect these changes on mitigation measure 9-2 and mitigation measure 12-2. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving the following, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolutions with the revisions to mitigation measure 9-2 and mitigation measure 12-2, and they will be in the following order. So we'll have, even though the staff report was condensed into one presentation, we're going to have 5 separate resolutions, and this is the particular order that they would need to be adopted. So the first resolution is Growth Management 2014-4, and that was for the remaining allocations for the Serato Estates. The second resolution is Mitigated Negative Declaration and Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program for the tentative map 2013-5 for Serato Estates. The third resolution is Minor Subdivision 2014-2, and that's separating the Serato Homestead from the larger portion of the site. The fourth resolution is Conditional Use Permit for the Planned Unit Development 2014-1, and then finally the tentative map for Serato Estates 2013-5. Are there any?
I have a question. I'm having a little trouble envisioning the sound wall breaks, and it refers to Figure 2. I don't see Figure 2. Do you have Figure 2 that you could put on the screen?
So the only breaks that are proposed in the site, in the sound wall here, are at the road entrances. So when they did the noise study, I believe there was a little bit of misinterpretation, so that the consultant went back and corrected that they thought there was going to be additional breaks. I can't really reach it from here, but here and here.
Oh, so that's where
Yeah, so they thought they're
where it goes
pedestrian.
perpendicular.
Yeah,
on
so
the roadway?
wherever there was breaks, the mitigation measure is saying that you need to wrap the sound wall at a certain distance around in order to keep air gaps so when the noise doesn't go into anybody's side yard there. So, but there's going to be no openings at that point, just at the entrances of the roadways. So at Joe Borovich Drive, where it goes across, and then the Monte Carlo Drive, the sound wall will at a certain distance, make a wrap around that corner to the resident's side yard there at the corner lots. So that's just being specific about the location of the noise barrier.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, there. Yeah, there.
One other question. The cul-de-sacs, I guess you kind of think you may want to connect those pair and Cherry Street run them all the way through? What's the purpose with the cul-de-sacs? Maybe you can enlighten me on that.
Yes, Chairman Huboy, the project is a plan unit development. It's a private. It's going to be a private project, and therefore, based on the plan unit development, they're hoping to have it more of a private, more of like an HOA type of development. The cul-de-sacs are going to have a gate for pedestrian access, but the applicant is hoping to have it more of a private development in within that subdivision. But you're absolutely correct.
Is it going to be gated then for a gate? Is it gated development?
It's no, it's going to be open. Hillcrest and Meridian are open. It's just that the cul-de-sacs are going to be gated, right? With the gates, with the pedestrian access.
There plans to look at a pocket park or something in that subdivision?
Pocket park
Not a small
within the
park,
subdivision.
because I know there's parks around, but they're across a 4-lane highway.
Yes, Commissioner Harvey, there isn't a plan for a pocket park, and there are open space areas, but no provision for a park within the development. Some of the open space areas are actually going to be used more for stormwater management requirements pursuant to the code. But yes, at this point, on this project, a pocket park is not being proposed.
Did you say, though, it was a PZ zone, though, right? Performance zone?
Correct. It's R3, medium density, MPZ.
Then
Yeah.
if it's a PZ zone, then there is a provision in that zoning designation for on-site amenities.
For
Correct.
on-site amenity.
Yeah, to have somewhat of a open space within that development.
They do have open space throughout the project. The PZ, the MPZ part of it is more for flexibility to meet the minimum densities required, the net densities for the overall project site. The amenities that they're providing is the open spaces throughout the project site, but not necessarily parks. Yes. And then another part is the single family. That's right, Joe. Being that it's medium density residential, they're going more with a single family part, but smaller lots instead of a higher density multiple family units. Part of the RPZ and the plan unit development.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about it all as a group? I mean, I have a comment on the initial study for the parks. There's some inaccuracies in there. It's quoting, well, first of all, for the record, we have 58 acres of city-owned parkland with an additional 35 in the county. We should have 110 acres of park facilities by 2010 based on project population. So that's kind of weird right there. But you're quoting, while not a city park under the authority of San Benito County, the proposed San Benito River Parkway Regional Park is located adjacent to the project site along the San Benito River. That's not true. It's nowhere near the San Benito River. Then that's my comment there. That's not true. But in the conditions for the subdivision, it's quoting, or in this initial study, it's discussing the parks that are around there. So they're quoting Margaret Mays as the closest one on the Meridian Street side. Well, that's not a park. That's a school grounds. It's occupied all day by schools. It's not accessible to the public at that time. In the evening, it turns into all of the facilities for all the recreation, football, soccer, baseball. There's reservations on those fields. They are not available. There's no playground there. And then it goes on to address the Veterans Memorial Park to the south. That would be the southeast there, 600 feet down to the Vets Park. However, it's not maintained or even owned by the city. That is a county park. So again, that's also inaccurate comment in that initial study. Again, I'll just say that this is another subdivision without a park. I don't find the initial study accurate, nor do I find it adequate in the area of parks. So I'm going to let it go on record as that. I know that the city council is amenable to discussing future parks and funding. So I'm looking forward to that. But again, there's inaccuracies in this initial study. I'd like it addressed.
Point well taken. Commissioner Lenore, that should have been stricken from the park section of the initial study regarding the location of the project site being adjacent to this San Benito River Parkway. That is correct. So that should have been stricken, and prior to adoption, that should be stricken. And also, that's right, the Veterans Park is actually managed by the county, even though it's within the city limits. It's mainly managed by the county of San Benito. So that's another
And
comment
I'm
well
not
taken.
saying that's not a viable park that they can go to, but Margaret Mays is not. So when they're making their argument for not having a park in there, it's not a good argument. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate your comments.
Any additional comments, questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open up public comment period at 6:50. Billy, any speaker cards on this item?
No, sir.
We'll go ahead and close the public comment period at 6:50 and bring it back to the commission. Any further discussion?
Let me take a stab at it.
Sure.
It's a lengthy one, so I guess we'll start with Resolution 2014-6 for the awarding of the remaining 46 allocations, adopting Resolution 2014-6 as presented.
That's, you want 4 motions or 6 motions, right?
Yeah, we have
We
to make
could
them
do
all
it.
separate.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. And I'll
Second.
second. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Harvey was second. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First one.
The next one's for the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the tentative map.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a
Something
motion for that approval of mitigated negative declaration for the tentative map, and that's Resolution 2014-7.
Is that
I
what?
thought that was 2013-5
5 was the pre-zoning,
for the mitigated.
yeah. 5 was Jim Matthews' pre-zoning.
But but I think Commissioner Hubo's comment is that tentative map 2013-5 is the application number, but the resolution number
yeah.
would be,
Okay.
yeah.
Would be- Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have,
Okay,
And then the next one is for the minor subdivision, 2014-2, and that's separating the 2 parcels from one part, creating 2, moving the
Go ahead
homestead.
and make that motion for minor subdivision 2014-2.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay.
And the next one is conditional use permit for the plan unit development, 2014-1.
I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit 2014-1 and resolution 2014-9.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the final resolution is for tentative map 2013-5.
And we have amendments, correct?
Yeah, so this, the recommendation from staff was, for the resolution, it's for the revisions of because all the resolutions basically have not every single one, not the growth management, but have the mitigation measures stated in the resolutions. So when we did the recommendation, it was recommend the change to 9-2 and 12-2 throughout. So it's, that's part of the recommendation from staff, if you accept that.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2014-8, approving tentative map 2013-5 with the noted changes to mitigation measure -9-2 and mitigation measure 12-2.
I'll second it.
Real quick,
Commissioner
was that a resolution 2014-10?
Yeah.
6, 7, 8,
Yeah,
oh,
10.
excuse me, 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay,
you.
motion and a second. Sorry about that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We're going to new business, on new business item number 1. I need to recuse myself because my firm provided architectural services for Walnut Park 13.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wood. All right, new business, Walnut Park 13, tentative map 2009-3, request to remove commercial component.
Yes, thank you,
David.
thank you, Mr. Chair. On May 27th, 2010, the City of Hollister Planning Commission approved tentative map application number 2009-3 for a phase subdivision with 20 single-family residential lots on Phase 1, 22 single-family residential lots on Phase 2, with a 4.27 acre remainder parcel. The property is located between Cerro Vista Drive to the west, Calistoga Drive to the east. It's south of Union Road, across from Cerro Vista School, and north of Brighton Drive. The project is currently under construction. For those of you who've driven in that area, you'll see that it's currently under construction. Phase 1 has been completed and received final occupancy from the City of Hollister Building Department, and Phase 2 is currently under construction at this time. The applicant has growth management allocations for the 42 single-family residences currently under construction and 54 multifamily residences for the 4.27 acre remainder parcel. A mitigated negative declaration has been prepared and was adopted for the tentative map 2009-3, which and the mitigated negative declaration evaluates the construction of 42 single-family lots along with the potential build-out of the remainder parcel. Build-out of the remainder parcel proposed a 0.97 acre neighborhood commercial lot in Phase 3 and multifamily residential dwelling units in Phase 4. Mitigation measure 9.1 of that adopted mitigated negative declaration for the project indicates that prior to recordation of the final map for the Phase 1 subdivision, a deed restriction shall be recorded that requires that future development of the remainder parcel include between 54 and 145 residential units to assure that the overall development density of the 12.95 acre site complies with the general plan land use plan density of 8 to 12 units per acre. So the deed restriction was recorded prior to the recordation of the final map for Phase 1.
On April 11th, 2013, the City of Hollister Planning Commission approved resolution number 2013-3, awarding 54 allocations for the 4.27 acre remainder parcel identified as Phase 3 and 4 within the project. The applicant's requesting to remove the proposed .97 acre commercial node in Phase 3 to allow for multifamily residential dwelling units instead. Also, originally, the plans had identified a potential for apartment units on the 4.27 acre remainder parcel. The applicant is requesting to provide residential townhomes instead of rental apartment units. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving the request to remove the proposed .97 acre neighborhood commercial node from the Walnut Park 13 project to allow for multifamily residential dwelling units in replacement of the neighborhood commercial node. The Planning Commission shall conduct public hearings to review proper land use development applications, including site and architectural review and tentative map prior to future development of the 4.27 acre remainder parcel. Are there any questions for staff?
Questions, comments?
Any additional impact going from commercial? Maybe not, because commercial brings traffic as well.
Correct.
So kind of pretty much the same there?
Correct. So that would be, from a commercial, basically eliminating the commercial and just keeping that, the residential part of it. So yes.
Okay, so there's no big adjustment there for impact on traffic?
Correct.
Okay, any additional comments, questions? None? So with this item, we have to open up for public,
No?
It's not technically a public hearing, but I do have speaker cards on the.
okay. So we'll go ahead and open the public comment period at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Matt Kelly?
Good evening, commissioners and staff.
My name is Matt Kelly, and I'm representing Mr. John Cheney of the Sierra Nevada Development Company. I'd like to clarify the terms of the deed restriction and offer my opinion that the proposed development of 46 units is in compliance with the deed restriction and is in compliance with current zoning. If I may read a couple of definitions from the Hollister Municipal Code. Density from section 7.02020, the number of dwellings per net acre of land unless otherwise stated for residential uses. R3, medium density residential district from 17.04.010. R3 medium density residential district. The medium density residential zoning district provides for medium and medium to high density residential development at densities from 8 to 16 dwelling units per net acres. Net density from 16.04040. Net density means the ratio of dwelling units to the area actually divided into lots or residential parcels, together with any open space or residential parcels, together with any open space or recreation areas or non-access streets, but excluding all land within access roads rights-of-way. What this means is when we calculate the density of the overall property, we are allowed to exclude dedicated roads. So the deed restriction reads, development of the 12.95 acre parcel shall require no less than 54 and no more than 145 units to comply with the 2005 general plan land use plan density of 8 to 12 units per acre, or the density required by the general plan in effect at the time of development. So a calculation of our density would be as follows. The original acreage is actually 12.1. It's not 12.95. The dedication of right-of-way that has been dedicated thus far is 2.45 acres. So that leaves a net acreage of 9.65. So if you multiply by that by 8, which is our minimum required number of units per acre, you get 77. As Abraham pointed out, there are 42 units already in the development. That leaves 35 units to meet our density requirement. The current project that Jill described, the townhomes, is 46 units. So if you divide our net acreage, the 46 units by the net acreage, you get a density of 9.3 units per net acre, which is actually in excess of the minimum requirement. So on behalf of Mr. Cheney, I respectfully request the removal of the commercial component of this project and request that you give consideration to our opinion of the required number of units to meet the designated density of this property. I am available for any questions.
Comments, questions? None? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ravina, oh boy.
Good evening. My name is Ravina Huboy with Huboy Architecture. I'm here to represent our client, Mr. John Cheney, who could not be here tonight. Mr. Cheney has been working on this project for 35 years. He has always wanted a development where there would be an opportunity to sell individual lots that would include attached garages. Ideally, when the townhome concept was introduced, this worked nicely in a higher density concept. The initial design included a mix of apartments, townhomes, and a convenience store. The convenience store was proposed to lower the neighborhood carbon footprint, in other words, not having to drive out for a cup of coffee, a bag of popcorn, and so forth. Initially, the concept seemed like a neat approach, but after developing the idea, there came to be concerns of traffic issues from the proximity to the school. Also, there really is a lack of interest from investors to market the building and get it off the ground. In response to the density requirement, the previous layout included 3-story apartments. The mass of the apartments, however, raised concerns not only from Mr. Cheney, but also from representatives from the school district, that it was too large and too much of an impact to the school, in fact, for the neighborhood as a whole. The latest concept that you have before you that was passed out just a little while ago has the 46 units that includes townhomes that are a variety of choices. There are 1-story, 1-bedroom, 2-story, 2 bedrooms, and 2-story, 3 bedrooms. All of these townhomes have attached garages as well as private patios and garden spaces. Mr. Cheney feels that this is the best alternative and is the most similar to his initial vision for his property. And he urges you to approve this concept. Any questions?
Thank you. Any additional?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I was a little bit saddened to see the rental properties going away. We talk about providing a balance in the city and moving those rental complexes around. They shouldn't all be over there off of West Side Boulevard, and they shouldn't all be over there in Meridian. I was really looking for some rental properties over on the southeast portion of the city. So I wasn't disappointed that he was removing the commercial component, but I wonder what changed from when he originally proposed the apartments, and now he's going with townhomes. You explained the commercial part and why, but what was his thought process when, oh, the schools didn't want you're still going to have townhomes? What's the difference between the number of apartment, and I should know this, but how many units was in the apartment complex and how many townhome units are there?
I feel like the minimum
I read so much stuff, it's hard to remember everything.
is 54 minimum, and I believe the previous concept was 54, correct?
The apartment buildings, you know, they were 3 stories for one thing. And, you know, Mr. Cheney, he thought they were a nice design, but he never wanted apartments. He never wanted to develop apartments. It was always his vision to develop single-family homes where somebody could buy the whole lot and have attached garages. So every time we redesigned, he kept asking us if he could go away from those apartments. You could still have rental properties for townhomes. You know, a person could buy townhomes and rent them. And there are, in the new designs, 1-bedroom units with 1-car garages, which could easily be rentals. I mean, but Mr. Cheney never liked the concept of doing a 3-story apartment building.
But as far as units, what's the number of units that was going to be in the apartment complex? I just want to know.
In the whole
units.
development, it was 54 units.
And then how many
And now we're
townhomes?
proposing 46.
Okay, so you have a
So
you
you've
have a
lost 8
reduction.
units. You've lost 8 units.
I don't think the probability that somebody's going to buy a brand new townhome and rent it is really a reality. But again, I'm just going to voice my opinion about not building rental housing. Not everybody can buy a house. We have a lack of rentals here. This would have been a perfect opportunity to spread it around. That's all I had to say.
I just could say one thing. But I don't think the zoning is really anything to do with whether you have rental properties or
Well,
or
we have a
not.
lack of rental properties in the city
I
as
think
a
it has
whole.
to do with density is what we're talking about, is the calculation of density. It's not, I mean,
No, I understand
Yeah.
densities. What I'm saying is that we don't have enough rental properties in the city of Hollister. I was excited to see that, and then I was not excited to see it go away. Because not everybody can buy a house.
well, yeah.
We have no rental stock, haven't built any for 20 years. We put the new one over there, and that's it. And for 20 years, we did not build one apartment complex. So I was hoping that we could get one on the southeast, but that's just me.
We just approved one by the gym?
Cushman.
Yeah, for Alvias, and that's good, but we
Yeah,
still
that's-
don't have anything on the southeast.
Yeah.
I mean, we could develop you know, duplexes, we used to live across duplexes over on Wilma Drive, and those were all rentals. You don't have to have apartments to have rentals.
Right.
Perhaps, you know, he could do
You're correct there.
he could do
You're correct there.
duplex, we could redesign it for duplexes, if that would be, you know.
That's just my thought on it.
Yeah.
I
but
don't know how the
I don't
rest of
think
the
he,
commission
you know, I
thinks.
just don't think he wants the three-story
Okay.
apartments.
Ruben, I have a quick question. So we went from three-story, these would all be two-story, correct? No?
Except for the one-bedroom units would be one-story, because the idea
right,
would
right,
be
right.
that
Okay.
maybe elderly people could live
Okay.
there. And
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that, to me, that just, the townhome kind of fits a lot better with that area. Just, I mean, my own opinion, I like the idea, quite frankly, that that's what the project is, and I think it's good that we did take out, the considerations to take out the commercial part of it. I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, you're, what, a half a mile from Starbucks or whatever in that area. I mean, it's not like it's, I don't really see the need to have a commercial spot in there myself, but that's my take.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to request the removal of the commercial component for Walnut Part 13 to map 2009-3.
Second.
You have a motion and a second? Or is that what you need of him, or?
Yeah, consensus for that, which is consistent to our request.
Okay.
Also, then the Matt Kelly and Ravina Huboy also indicated that they would like to see if it would be okay to go below the density that was approved by the mitigated negative declaration and the deed restriction that was recorded that indicated a minimum of 54 units. They're hoping that instead of a minimum of 54, they do a minimum, they do 46. Mr. Kelly indicated the process for that he indicated the calculations for that. His calculations are point well taken. The reason why it was 54 is at that time it was analyzed through the mitigative negative declaration that the whole project at 12.95 acres as opposed to 12.10 that we now indicate that the project is. So a deed restriction was recorded for a minimum of 54. Another thing was we want to make sure that the city meets their regional housing needs, and that's why we're sticking with the 54. However, you know, the applicant is here making that request to change it. You know, but that would be up to the commission. We didn't put it as a part of a recommendation because a deed restriction has been recorded with a minimum of 54 units.
So the mechanism to change that would be an additional motion to edit that and re-record it? Or what is the recommendations of the staff if that were to?
Yes, staff recommends to keep the 54 units, have the applicant try to rearrange the site now with the elimination of the commercial nod to, instead of providing 46, try to provide still the 54. But if it's the desire of the commission to allow for a 46 and direct staff to try to make the changes with the deed restriction and go back and allow for the 46, then that would be up to the commission. At this point, staff would prefer that the minimum 54 is maintained, but that.
I would then, at that point, then just reiterate my initial motion. And it's up to Commissioner Harvey
That's
if he
fine.
wants to second that or not, or
Well, okay, because I think we should go with, if the applicant wants to do the 46, then, I mean, that's what, I think I mean, that would be, I would want to go with that.
With the 46,
If they're requesting to do the.
because staff is okay with the townhomes, but the staff is just asking to keep with the minimum 54. But if the commission wants to be okay with the recommendation of the applicant and move it to 46, then that would be up to the commission. we would have to change the deed restriction for that. But
So I guess one of the questions then would be, if the, and just putting it out there, if the minimum was kept at 54, Ravina, can it be designed to accommodate that 54? I guess that would be the biggest question.
It would be difficult. We would have to take.
Yes, please.
I know I have a low voice. If we stuck with the 54, we would probably have to redesign a portion of the property to go with condominiums or something like that. I don't think we could do all townhomes where the whole unit was from, the land up with attached garages. We would probably have to go with some component of a condominium type of space with parking. You have your little plans in front of you. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe where it shows the little three bedrooms kind of in that one corner. That's my only suggestion is, or I'm not sure exactly where, but we would probably have to develop condominiums in a portion of the area.
My take is to go with what the applicant's asking.
Additional comments from commissioners?
So that's fine. 46.
46? Do we have a consensus on the 46?
Maybe if Commissioner Harvey just wants to make a motion
Yeah.
that says that 46 is something that he's recommending, we could do it two ways and see if that motion passes, and then if it doesn't, then we'll go take a motion at 54, and we'll see where that one lands.
So I'll make a motion that we go with the 46.
I'll second.
Is that the only motion that we're making? Are we going to make one on the change from commercial component to the townhome? Is that another motion?
Well, I think you guys are all in agreement on, the commission is
Yes.
in agreement on that, right?
Remove it.
No.
Oh, you're not, oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
okay. So maybe then you should do that.
Okay.
Just so that the record can stand clear that how it was voted upon.
Okay.
So let's go with that first, the commercial component.
Okay, motion for the removal of the commercial component, Walnut Park 13.
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay, 3-1. And then the, your motion?
I want to clarify that I'm not against the commercial component going away. I don't like the replacement for it. So I'm clarifying for Mr. Cheney, and I stated my reasons before.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenore.
We go back a long way, I do with Mr. Cheney. But this one, I like the apartments better.
So I make a motion that we go with the 46 as opposed to the 54.
And I'll second that motion. Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. Perfect. All right, we'll move to item number 2.
Thank you.
Thank
Bring
you.
David back in.
Oh, yes.
Last time he went in there, we forgot him.
Hello.
He's
There he
meditating.
is.
I didn't forget you this time.
I think we have one for your water.
Charge on the way out.
Thanks, Ravina.
Thank you. Silver Oaks revision to residential dwelling facades.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, on July 16th, 2009, the City of Hollister Planning Commission approved tentative map 2009-2 and conditional use permit 2009-1 for a planned unit development permit to subdivide 24.4 acres into 166 residential lots for a senior adult community. The Planning Commission also approved site and architectural review 2009-6 to construct a common community center with outdoor recreation uses. So, on May 27, 2010, the Planning Commission amended the tentative map and conditional use permit to include 4 additional lots, so for a total of 170 units on the project site. The tentative map approval included 10 proposed residential design facades. So with the total 170 units, The original proposal was to provide 10 separate design facades for the single-family residential units. The applicant is now here because is requesting revisions to the proposed residential facades. And so that we're here to present these. In your packet, you received the ones that were adopted back in 2009, and then the ones that are now proposed. So the ones that were originally adopted, 6 of the facades were proposed as single-family residential single-story homes, and 4 were as 2-story homes, for a total of 10. The proposed revision include 14 instead of 10, 14 residential design facades for the project, and 11 of the revised residential facades are proposed as single-story, and 3 as 2-story. The proposed revisions to the facade design substantially conform to the approved tentative map 2009-2. That's the recommendation from staff, that these changes substantially conform and would include 4 additional options, which would create a greater variation of housing types and design. The floor plans that are also proposed shall conform to the residential design standards in the City of Hollister, as well as the Hollister Municipal Code for tentative map approval and plan unit development approval. So today, staff is asking for a consensus again that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving the revisions to the facades of the proposed residential dwelling units for tentative map 2009-2 Silver Oaks. Does the commission have any questions for staff?
I gather then the purpose behind this is to add more variation to the development in terms of the aesthetics and the exteriors?
So yeah, what the options, now creating more options than were originally proposed and approved, it would create a greater variation. And then our zoning code generally calls for that. One of the things that the residential zoning code, one of the section indicates that there should be variation at least every 4 units. And by providing 14 different elevations, that should meet that requirement very well.
Any additional comments, questions? So, do we have a consensus or any motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the application for the revision of the residential dwelling facades.
A second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And
And
I commend the applicant for that purpose, variation.
Thank you.
item number 3 is A-frame section of the sign ordinance for the Hollister Municipal Code.
Okay. At the previous Planning Commission meeting for February 27, 2014, under the communications from the public on items not listed on the agenda, there was a request from the Hollister Downtown Association to have the Planning Commission review regulations for A-frame signs slash sandwich board signs to allow placement within the city sidewalk right-of-way within the downtown mixed-use zoning district. Due to this request, the commission directed staff to provide the A-frame sign slash sandwich board sign section of the sign ordinance for 17-2050, 23 exempt signs for the Hollister Municipal Code for review, so that the commission might provide staff with suggestions. Currently, A-frame signs, sandwich board signs are not permitted within the city right-of-way. Following the discussion regarding the downtown signage at the special joint meeting with the City Council and Planning Commission on March 6, 2014, staff would like comments and feedback from the commission, and we had attached to your packets there a copy of the section 17, 20, 50, 23 exempt signs of Hollister Municipal Code for review. So at this point, we're just asking, based on that joint session, any feedback or any direction for staff to explore that further, or recommendation to keep as my understanding, to keep the sign ordinance as is, or any other questions or comments.
Okay, comments?
Well, they can't, right now, we're saying you can't put a sign out on the street. It has to be,
In an alcove.
Or private property, not in the
Okay.
city right of way. So that would be in the city sidewalks. And our downtown, the sidewalks are a lot more narrow than some other cities, so
widen them.
So we're just talking exclusively on site tonight and not in the city right of way? Because we haven't really heard from the city attorney about the city's liability.
That's
Or
correct.
anything in the right of way. I was hoping he was gonna talk to us tonight about that, but maybe I'm ahead of myself.
No, that's correct, Commissioner Lenore. Yes, right now, essentially, what Joe was presenting was that at the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission, you all requested to review, to have it for your review. So yeah, the city attorney is not here today to talk a little bit about that, but it's it's for your review. And I know that at the last joint Planning Commission City Council meeting that you all attended, I know there was direction to explore and to review the sign ordinance, and we just wanted to give you a copy of, in particular, the sandwich or the A-frame signage ordinance that we currently have, which Joe explained, and Commissioner Harvey also indicated that they're currently not allowed in public right-of-way. They are allowed, but only on private property. And not all the tenants within the downtown have these alcoves or these entrances, these private spaces where a A-frame sign can be placed. One of the ways that the city kind of try to combat that, where they can still have advertisement, is using blade signs or hanging signs, and we have regulation on that, where they have to be a certain size. They can't be too low for safety reasons, tall people hitting their head or whatnot. But so that's what we have right now, trying to accommodate that request for more advertisement in the downtown or for buildings using that blade sign. But last Planning Commission meeting, we had the president of the Downtown Association requesting that the city look into the possibility of amending that ordinance to allow for these A-frame signs to be allowed with certain regulations.
I guess for clarification, as it is now, the property line typically comes tangent to the edge of the sidewalk, is that correct? The inside edge?
Is that what it is, David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or generally, yeah.
Generally. A lot of the buildings are at the zero lot line in the downtown, and they don't have much of a, front area of landscaped, or even, they don't have the dining area lacking, but
Yeah.
And also, I did recall, and I think that I'd like to mention it again, on the blade signs, there is a provision within the ADA requirements for it's called protruding objects. It has to be within a certain height.
That is
How
correct.
high?
So I think that we need
I think
to
it's
coordinate
They're
8
generally
feet.
up high.
Yeah, I think there's a minimum where,
I
yeah,
believe it's 80 inches.
yeah, and we do have that section projecting as well.
Also coordinate with the ADA regulations on it.
Correct, and they have to get proper permits, an encroachment permit from the engineering department as well, because it protrudes to the public right of way.
off the top of my head, I believe we allow menus to be posted on the side of a specific size, on the side of the building for restaurants to actually post their menu on the exterior of their building. I know a lot of restaurants were putting it on the sandwich board sign. So we do already have regulations that
correct.
we allow for the menus to be posted in a certain criteria for restaurants,
Yes.
already as is.
Yes.
We also have hanging signs too. They're very similar to the blade signs, but I think they can go under the marquees, or as long as they meet that site clearance. So that's
Yes.
another perpendicular view for pedestrians to view a signage. So that's how we remedied that with the blade signs.
There are other, like towns like, I don't know if you guys check the others, like Livermore,
Mhm.
Livermore come down to the Downtown Association. They've got a beautiful downtown, Lodi. There's different ones out there that are somewhat comparable. I mean, if you guys, what do they do?
Yeah, we do have the challenge of the narrow sidewalk. And so I was in Willow Glen this last weekend, and they have the wider sidewalk. So they do have prefixed signs out there made out of wrought iron. They're all the same. There's consistency. Each side is something different with a map of the downtown. So they have very good signage, but they have it probably double the size of our sidewalk. So we have that challenge of the narrow sidewalks, as I'm sure David could agree with. So there is liability there of people tripping and falling, and when they do put the signs out, if there is weather, they could shift into the right of way for pedestrians. So there's there's challenges there in our downtown specifically.
Yeah,
So was a summary of what the Downtown Association is requesting, at this, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but was a summary or minutes of notes of that meeting taken so that we can kind of get a sense of where they want to see changes specifically to the sign ordinance and compare those side by side? I think that would be helpful for the commission to kind of look at those, and I'm just visually thinking of some kind of.
Yeah.
I think the information that, Abraham could correct me if I'm wrong, but the information that was sent from other jurisdictions, I believe the sidewalks are wider too. Is that correct? So I
Yeah.
think more the challenge right now is the liability of, if Bill can agree, but with
That's
the,
pretty much what we discussed, was the liability and whether they're even going to allow them to be on the right-of-way. That's to be determined.
so maybe from a aesthetic point of view, I don't,
I do have a little bit of just simple suggestion. If, provided the city does go that route, and they do somehow address any potential liability, maybe they do waivers, I don't know how they do that. But I would think that an 18-inch wide A-frame sign that's professionally done, 3 feet high, 18 inches, would fit nicely at the inside of the curb, not all the way out to the street, because people have to open their doors. They don't need to be hitting their car doors on your sign. So you just have to be sensible on where you're going to place it. But I think that 18 inches, even if you go 2 feet, it's going to be too big. So that would be something that I would like to see is a skinny A-frame. But I tell you, I really love the blade signs. I love the blade signs. I think when people are driving downtown, they're eye level. They're looking at the windows. They'll see your blade sign a little bit better than that car. And as a matter of fact, when cars are parked, you're not going to see the A-frame from the street. So I really think that, though I love the blade signs, I love the hanging signs, the pedestrians benefit from the A-frame, it's okay, but I think 18 inches would be the widest that might work.
Yeah.
Those are my comments.
And as I recall, we had a discussion on the waivers, and I can't answer for the city council, but I think he frowned upon it as saying that it's really not a good mechanism to protect the city.
I would think that there'd be some downtown, there's gotta be some downtowns out there that really look, really classy looking downtowns that have sidewalks similar to ours. We can't be the only ones with a sidewalk.
Watsonville actually has a very similar pattern
Who
to
does?
our downtown when they did their beautification downtown.
Who does?
It's got the, Watsonville?
Watsonville.
It's pretty much the same. I might even be a little wider, but you talk about narrow sidewalks, they were way narrower before. When we did the beautification project, they widened up. Now looking back, well, maybe we could have did them a little wider, but you still got a street to accommodate. They only had so much room to work
Yeah.
with.
Well,
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
like to me, just when you look at stuff like that, it's just, when your space is tight, I know when we did our bed and breakfast, and then, you go to other places and you look around and you say, how do they get a bathroom in here, and you look at, that's how you get your ideas. You don't, it's hard to see something until you find somebody that did it well, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, there's just follow, there's gotta be some other, I don't know where to go other than just maybe do a little bit of internet research and maybe see, but I would think there'd be some other towns that have a really nice
Tuolumne,
looking
Mariposa. We do a lot of traveling when we camp, and we see those downtowns, out of state, in state, and I'm always coming back with ideas, because you're right, you go other places and they look neat, they look uniform, and they look good. So that's why I'm always saying, I know we could look better, so I hear what you're saying.
I wonder about, because Lodi is a town that's a quarter of our size, and, we're looking at them from just from a tourism standpoint, and our tourism committee, it's some of the things they're doing, how, and they've exploded, and there's others too. There's, that I can think of that, Livermore was another one that came to mind, Murphy's.
Even
those are a few that
Salinas
come to
Old Town,
mind.
right? Salinas
Yeah,
Old
there's
Town
little-
goes
yeah,
on
they've
in
done
there.
some, yeah.
I mean, it is an old town,
Yeah.
so that's what we call it.
Yeah.
So what is the process now? You taking information to come back for a follow-up meeting with the Hollister Downtown and to discuss this more, but in the meantime, many of the small businesses are still being fined for violating the existing sign ordinance, correct?
Or they're receiving corrections, basically letting them know that if they are putting these A-frame signs on the public right-of-way, that they should remove them by a certain time. Otherwise, they would be fined. Chairman Torres? Yeah, correct. And so, yeah, at this time, we just want to get, more feedback, information.
Okay.
The president of the HCA has sent us ordinances of other cities as well. And so we want to take a look at them, review them, compare them to the city of Hollister, see how much they are alike, how much they're different, what can work, what cannot work. So, yeah, and another point, like Commissioner Lenore mentioned, would be the liability factor that we would also want to get informed and educated on for this ordinance, if we're going to be making changes on this ordinance.
My suggestion would be that we move on this sooner than later, obviously with the spring farmers markets coming up, a lot of the events taking place downtown, where a lot of businesses are forecasting, their business models based on those tourists coming in.
Yes.
And the last thing we want to have is small businesses impacted or worried about being fined during the number of events that the city of Hollister will be hosting. So those are just my comments.
Thank
We got the
you.
wine and beer stroll coming up. I think we have a strong HDA, I think. I think Brenda and them, I just have a solid group. I would
Yeah.
lean to go and, they're gonna be looking out for, at all the angles too. They're pretty, so
Yes.
I would lean toward kind of what they
It's
recommend.
coming up May 3rd, I believe. the wine-
May 3rd is the
it's
wine
going-
and beer stroll. It's gonna be huge, and then there's
Mhm.
more stuff happening, so.
And maybe when you talk to HCA, I was curious to know how many are actually in the association.
The
Because
businesses.
not all the downtown businesses are not in the association. So I was kind of curious where they were standing these days. That's always a stumbling block for stuff they want to do.
Okay. No further comments. We'll move down to the department reports. You have anything?
No reports.
Planning Commission reports?
I just want to ask staff, and I know that they're getting ready to do it, the mobile food vending. We're going
yeah.
to take that. I know I kind of bring a lot of things up, but I want to see that wrapped up, because we did it, so we need to get it onto the council. Because before it starts being an issue, and then they say, well, you didn't finish it. So we need to
Well, you're
finish it.
right, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Great suggestion.
Thank you.
I know you have limited staffing. I do realize that. I should realize that out of everybody. So that it would be good if we could wrap that up, because we're almost done with it.
Yeah,
At
we've
least the part we talked about.
absolutely. We've had a lot of today. We talked to somebody who was really interested
Right.
in putting
Well,
in a
in
mobile
fact,
food
I had
vendor.
a member of the public solicit me about mobile vendors, mobile food
Really?
vendors. And that's when I talked to you.
That's right,
But I
that's right,
explained to
for that
them that we
information.
weren't quite all the way adopted yet, so
around the
I think we need to do that so that they
You're
know
right.
where they can go and where they can't.
Absolutely.
That makes
I've
you
been playing
over-
once a week, I
over-regulating,
practice.
our health department, they do a lot of regulation. You want to be safe and all that, but
We're working together with them. They,
Right.
yeah.
It
Let's
can be
don't
frustrating.
let's don't kill people. Let's, I think I'm all for having rules that make sense, but, if they're already having to follow a set rules, with the health department, let's not just heap more stuff on them.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
unnecessary. I'm not saying we're doing that, but just
sure.
be careful.
We'll be working with them and just make sure that all the requirements are met and that the health department is good, and then we'll work for the land use part of it as well, and make sure that you all have a chance to take a look at it, and also the public as well have comments. The gentleman that we talked to today, he was really interested in seeing what we have so far, and he was providing examples of other cities as well, and it's good to see that. It's good to see that interest from the public. Yeah.
All right. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion.
Motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Thank you all. Next regular meeting, Thursday, April 24th, 6 p.m.
Yep.